All right, so this is formal welcome to all of you from across the world. Thanks a lot for joining in this what we called Anamine Conversations, and this is second of the series. We did a very good one where fashion and retail last week. So very good wide spread of audience, and what we are really looking forward from all of you is the insights from your regions as well as the industry per se. And I see here a very good mix. Let me just call out the panelists for today. From my left to right, we have Anand Doraiswamy from Dabur International, based out of Dubai. We have Rutger Nouwen from Netherlands, and he's now a supply chain director independent. We have been colleagues in Apple, and he's been my guru as well in planning and forecasting in those days. And we have Chintan Shah from Toronto, and he's with BIC, the largest manufacturer of pens and stationery in the world. So thanks, Chintan, for joining in as well. Then we have Anar from Georgia Pacific, based out of Atlanta. And we will like to know a lot more from you as well, from the hotspot of the world, which you are in right now, from COVID perspective. We have Dipak Gautam from Firefox bikes, based out of NCR in Gurgaon. Welcome, Dipak. And we have Neha as well on call. You guys can't see her because she has some bandwidth issues, but Neha is from Godrej Consumer Products, based out of Mumbai. So thanks a lot again, all of you joining in. And as I was mentioning that I see a good mix. So in my mind, I have divided 6 of you into 2 groups, right? One is okay, on the screen you can see from Anar, Anand, and Neha, representing companies what we call in today's world basically into essentials category, basically personal care, hygiene, getting a good leg up from COVID fiasco, the event that we are facing today. And then we have Chintan, Rutger, and Dipak presenting the other side of the consumer goods, right? Which we would like to know how they'll turn out to be. So we will have this discussion in this context, and I'll be asking you questions. But before we get started, a quick icebreaker that we do for all our webinars. And considering that all of you are from planning background as well, now I would want to make you to make a quick forecast. When do you think this COVID fiasco will end? Will it just next quarter, October quarter, or the next year? Anand, your take. Quick one.
Quarter 2.
Quarter 2. Okay.
July to September.
July quarter. Okay. Rutger.
Q4.
Q4, that's the October quarter, OND.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Chintan?
Q3. We are seeing indications for Q3, July onwards.
July. Okay. Anar?
So staying in US, I can say that it's going to be all over the place, but I would really assume by Q3, which we consider from September end, we should definitely start seeing it's turning around.
So you're saying end of Q3 basically for you?
Correct.
Okay. Dipak, what do you think for
very difficult question, Rishi. But what we expect, I think by September end, which is Q3 end, the situation should be much more normal.
Okay. And Neha, you?
Yeah, I think Rishi, this would be the new normal. I would go with what Anar just mentioned. We would take till September to come out of it. That's our assessment.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll publish a MAPE report after some quarters and let you know the forecast accuracy.
How about your prediction?
Chintan, we have, I think I can't hear you very clearly.
What is your prediction? What do you say?
Oh, I'm in a good place. I'm on the other side of the table today, so not making any predictions. All right. So I realize this is a really happy place in these situations. Okay, so let me get started, and let me start with the personal hygiene essentials group first. What is the real challenges? And what we'll do is we'll probably first talk about demand side of the things, and then we'll come to the supply side challenges. So talking about demand, Anar, let me start with you. And considering that you are in the country which is facing the maximum brunt of the COVID situation, how do you see demand panning out as we come out of this situation over next few weeks, at least start getting back into our feet across the world over a period of time? How do you see, what are the challenges that you see from that perspective, from the demand perspective? If you can give us your views.
So, I mean, Georgia Pacific, so we belong to paper industry, and for some reason the bath tissue demand skyrocketed. Who would have thought with COVID the bath tissue would be the surge which we saw, unexpected surge in a way. The surge is across all of paper products, like paper towel, napkins, but bath tissue is right now still, um, the customer shelves are still empty. So we came up with both short-term and long-term perspective. Of course, the short-term perspective is to make sure that we can supply as much as we can to fill customer shelves, which are still empty across the mass groceries and clubs. But the long-term approach would be maybe some, I would say, like mock. We have to continuously come up with different ideas on reduced portfolio and production efficiency as well as shipping efficiency to see how can we service the demand what we are seeing now. How the demand is going to, if your question is around how the demand is going to last, or are we going to see a huge cannibalization or drop after this COVID, my assumption is for both for chemical industry and somewhat for paper industry, there is not a whole lot of only hoarding. It's going to be, for example, people are staying more at home. People are more careful about cleaning. The bath tissue as well as the paper towel or most of the cleaning products, we are into sanitizers and hand soaps. Those products, we are not going to see a huge decline even after September. I think there will be a new normal, is what we are predicting. Yes, the surge we saw in end of February to probably it will still go on until end of May. That surge will start declining, but we might not see a complete drop in demand after that.
So do you see a shift in the permanent shift in the demand levels, either up or down for certain product categories compared to
Yes,
what you saw till now?
yeah, that's a very good point. Like, think about hygiene products like hand sanitizer or skincare, which we call our soap category. Also wipers, which are used in healthcare or in food service section, or also in somewhat like, I would say that the new normal for wiper, the paper towels, as well as hygiene products is going to be much higher than what we see now, because people are going to be more careful for next 2 to 3 years, wondering when can they still get affected.
Sure. Thanks, Anar. Anand, what about you? I can tell you as a consumer in this lockdown, I finished my first ever bottle of Chyawanprash because I've been buying, but I never finished it. So, and when I see that there is an 81% increase in the Chyawanprash demand, I think I'm not the only one, right? So how do you guys see it from the...
So absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. Rishi, in India, if you ask the Dabur demand for Chyawanprash because of the immunity factor, and because of the main the fight against Corona or COVID is mainly the the immunity strength. So Chyawanprash and products like these have actually skyrocketed from demand perspective. But in the region, if you ask me, from the MENA region, which is where I come from, immunity is one of the part of it, where Chyawanprash is one of the product categories. But largely, I would say the consumption in the market has dropped drastically. So the demand has dropped, and from the supply chain perspective, consumers are not going to the malls, and hence what's happening is the pipelines are getting choked. If the pipelines are getting choked, the trade is, in the trade, the money is getting blocked, and mainly this region is largely an oil economy. So you know how the oil prices have gone down drastically, and hence leading to no rolling of cash. And in the FMCG world, if there is no rolling of cash, there is no further demand getting generated. So from the manufacturer, who's a brand owner, to the trader to the retailer, and then finally to the consumer. So there's a lot of pipeline choke which is happening, hence demand going down drastically, especially in personal care, hair care, oral care. However, as what Anand was mentioning, that the new categories is the new norm, which is what a lot of FMCG companies are getting into. Mainly people who can fast turn around the supply chains, where the base of the product remains the same. So from the R&D perspective, the product largely is an alcohol based product. How fast the alcohol can be reached the factory where it is getting manufactured, and hence products like these sanitizers, wipes, body washes, antibacterial hand washes are the categories that are really skyrocketing from demand perspective.
So what I hear you mentioning, that there's probably a shift in the demand of the product portfolio, as you may call it, from your perspective. Okay.
Absolutely.
Let us hear from Neha on what Godrej is seeing from India perspective. Neha?
Yeah, so Rishi, I would say actually we are seeing a drastic shift in demand. Specifically, if you say sanitizer as a category got developed in Asia with SARS coming in. It did not exist in India because sanitizer was there, but it was considered to be something that you will find in hospitals, etc. But it was never a household item. It got created with SARS coming in, and we are seeing a similar shift now happening in personal hygiene. Specifically for us at Godrej, we deal in personal hygiene as a category, which is mainly soaps, hand wash, sanitizer. So we are seeing a drastic shift in demand. Second category where we are seeing a rub-off is on household insecticide. Why interestingly is because the overall affinity towards the disease is now being taken very seriously. So if I have to say a customer who was okay, or maybe because everybody's at home, they end up cleaning their houses more often than they used to do. We are seeing a gradual rub-off happening on household insecticide as well. People are not okay with having mosquitoes at home. They don't like having cockroaches at home. Any kind of disease that they are seeing, they would really want to be away. So overall affinity that we see in India as a country, and I'm not just saying from affluent household. My sales, say in a place like Dharavi, are also picked up for soaps. Maybe they are buying a 10 rupee soap, which is the smallest SKU, but I definitely see the hygiene conscious going significantly up. So we are only challenge for us as supply chain is to how fast can we cater to this demand. But we are predicting a paradigm shift in the category. The personal hygiene is going to be the top priority, and it's going to stay for at least a couple of more years to be, because people still feel there is a relapse. What if I contracted a and it's getting imbibed, right? I mean, my kid is 3-year-old. He gets virtual classes, and in a half an hour session, teacher says at least 10 times wash your hands more frequently. So these guys are going to get it's going to get imbibed in their DNA, right? That that's the way forward. So I think this is a new normal. These categories are now going to stay at this heights as we see. So the demand curve is shifting for sure.
Right. So I think there is a very consistent message that is coming across the world, that there is going to be a shift which will definitely last for some time, if not permanent forever. That's towards the personal hygiene products, and there's definitely surge across the world. We'll talk more about that, but let's hear from the other products which basically cater to either offices, a lot in Chintan's case, I think, apart from homes, but also homes, right? And Rutger, I would like to know more from that perspective. Such things like appliances, and you work with Apple, LG, and people spending more time at home on one side, and plus there is an income uncertainty on the other side. So let me start with Chintan, and how do you see things folding from non-essential perspective?
Yeah, so just to clarify a couple of things, can you hear me, right? We are not
Sure,
only in stationery business. We are number one manufacturers of lighters, and number two manufacturers and distributors of shavers. So two of our categories of commodities, you can say, are kind of considered as a part of essentials. So we are still working in Toronto. Our offices are still open and across the world. Um,
okay.
Definitely, we are seeing, I would say, unprecedented demand on certain commodities. Basically, the shift is not from coming from brick and mortar business or retailers. It has gone to e-com. The diversity, or I would say the changing landscape right now of the business has definitely impacted the ability on our factories to produce, has a lot of volatile demand coming from various sectors and the shift of channels. And then we, from the supply chain, being essential and as part of a non-essential, which also considers as spans and stationaries and whatever, has kind of changed the whole landscape of our doing a business. So we kind of have changed the model from traditional brick and mortar to wholesale to an e-com model. And there we see an upswing or a surge of business from say baseline of 0 to 600% of the orders gone up. And we have to cope with that. We have to change that dynamics within a short period of time. And fortunately, with the upscale or scaling down or flexing our systems and processes, we have been able to adopt. But I won't take at this stage, and this is just my personal opinion, this is not the time to take a demand signals. I would say the demand is artificial, and until this settles down within next 3 to 4 months, then we can see a consistent demand signals or some kind of a trend which we can capture on and work for future.
All right. Sure. Thanks, Chintan. Rutger, your views.
All right, on a high level, I guess most economists agree that we are facing a time of recession. So there will be more negative demand impact than positive demand impact across industries. I do see in my own practice some positive trends. I've just joined, as an example, a self-storage company for for people who have some furniture that they need to get rid of. What you observe is that people are more at home, start to clean stuff. They go more to IKEA, which opened with big lines again today, and they need some stuff out of the way. So industries, surprisingly or not, are flourishing suddenly and have to cope with unforecasted demand. And now they're scrambling, will it be short-term or long-lived? The food industry, the retailers in the food industry see very good demand. People are more at home. On the flip side, the caterers, the restaurants, have almost zero demand. Now, the big waste is in caterers and restaurants. It means that the net food consumption is always the same. So the demand will go down because the waste is out. So industry by industry, you need to see, and it depends where you are and where I am. You need to review, okay, what's the short-term and what's the long-term effect? You do know in the long-term effect that the demand will be lower across industries. And I was a bit shocked yesterday to see that Argentinian airlines now close their flights until September. Hence my prediction for Q4. I think we're facing a bit longer struggle in many industries, but of course not in the diapers and cleaning materials. So that's my 2 cents.
Sure. Thanks, Rutger. Very interesting insights there. Dipak, your views.
Yeah, Rishi, if you see the sports bicycle segment in India, Firefox is a market leader with approximately 30-40% of market share. And before this COVID hit till last financial year, we were growing at a rate of 20% YOY. However, because of this pandemic, the demand is completely disrupted now. And our bikes, if you see our consumer, they are primarily, very health conscious consumers. and outdoor fun-loving consumers. So and we are present across segments, means kids and adults both. Now, due to this pandemic, what is happening that people are getting more health conscious. So as other Anar and Anand told that they are buying more products which are immunity booster, or like you mentioned Chyawanprash and all. So bicycles also, we are seeing a spike in demand of indoor bikes, not the outdoor bikes but the indoor bikes, and we are now catering that particular demand through our online channel. Uh, in long term, what I'm seeing is because of this consumer behavior change that is happening right now under the lockdown. This is going to definitely going to give us a boost in terms of consumers who are health conscious, and they are definitely going to buy our product.
Excellent. So new positioning, maybe stronger positioning towards the health consciousness. Absolutely. Now, something that I wanted to really ask all of you reading the reports, especially Anand, Neha, and Anar. And Anand mentioned about the choking of the supply chain in this scenario. And it seems there is a spike in the counterfeit products trying to fill the demand gap that's there in the market. So do you guys see that, and how are you trying to tackle that? I read that a lot of companies have launched audits, and I don't know how they're doing it with lockdown in place in most places, but that's a serious problem, right, from the customer perspective. So Neha, maybe let me check with you from India perspective, a more notorious place for such things.
Yeah, so there is an issue, Rishi. So choking of the pipeline is surely a case. So what is happening is we are seeing two demands, like what Rutger just mentioned. We are seeing a shift because the malls are closed, but the normal kiranas have got the much needed revival that they were waiting for. So all the kirana stores are open still in India. This means, and customers per se are also not wanting to get into a crowded place. They are preferring to go to a smaller outlet, getting things. They are coming up with different kind of models of giving door deliveries, etc. So cash pipeline is a concern, but somewhere the demand shifting or getting into normal kirana. So what is happening is I'm doing smaller deliveries to them, not a bigger one.
But do you see the counterfeits being launched in the market to fill the gap that probably the companies are not able to fill in?
So yeah, that's correct. Specifically in a category like say sanitizer, everybody is making a sanitizer right now. While most of the corporates are doing it because they want to supply as a part of CSR, but there are a lot of cases of fake sanitizer being there. So counterfeit, yes, is a big problem, and I don't think there would be any easy solution because authorities would not have time to find such things or go behind them. So there would
have you guys found anything being sold under Godrej name which was fake?
No, nothing under Godrej name that was being sold, but something which say is sold as a sanitizer, claims to have alcohol but doesn't have an alcohol in it.
That way,
something,
right? Sure.
Yeah.
I think we saw that spike in the bottled water category some time back, and there was everybody's selling bottled water in India. But Anand, do you see any such challenges in Middle East or MENA region?
So in the MENA, what happens is generally the norms are very stringent. So the government is very active in that way, counting on more than counterfeits, as what Neha was saying, that the wrong base being used. So when they say that it is 70% alcohol in the product, actually it's not 70 but it's 30. So what the government authorities do in the region is that they go and do the consumer checks. They do these retail checks, and not only the retail, which means the bigger malls like the Carrefours and all, but they do this at the bakalas, which is the normal kirana in India. So they go to these kiranas, they pick up samples, they do the test, and then they release a report saying that these are faulty products. Please either take it back off from the shelf, and also find the company who's actually manufacturing it, and take action against them. So that's quite stringent in a way, and the entire demand in sanitizers started growing up by, let's say, by mid of early March, mid of March, actually, during that period, which is when it started the entire demand. And that is the time when, everyone was starting to sell alcohol at a price which was alcohol at X, but was, alcohol was selling at about, industrial alcohol, I mean, is selling at about, 3 times the price. And hence, for profit perspective, everyone started, a lot of people who couldn't manage the cost for perspective, they started doing this adulteration of alcohol and using less percentage, using methanol based alcohol and so on. So that is what, when the government became very active and they did a lot of such activities. So in the region, it's very, very stringent, I would say, in terms of that. So the counterfeit coming into the market is very less as compared to the other, especially a country like India, it's very easy to do the counterfeit.
Yeah, that's why I was checking with Neha first. But Anar, do you see anything at all in the North American market?
No, not that we heard or we encountered, at least with the regular mass groceries or drugstores. We haven't heard any of that. We did hear a little bit of people personally who were like people who bought in a lot of sanitizer because they thought it's coming, and then more of industrial size bottles, and they would charge higher, like extra money, and sell it at much higher price to other retailers. But again, very, very seldom examples of those, but no fake product is what I have never heard of that yet.
All right. All right. So I think probably it won't really be of concern to Chintan. And anybody else would want to add anything on that?
Yeah. So
in the
just
US,
to add,
sorry, go on.
Yeah, go ahead, Anand.
Yeah, you go on.
Okay,
sure. Go. Anand, you can go on first.
In the US, especially, I would say that, we have a lot of connect moving goods from MENA to the US. The FDA is quite stringent. They have a certain norm. They have opened up, a proper report saying that this should be the composition of the product. And if this composition is not met, then they will not allow, the customs will not allow the goods coming into the country. It's as simple as that. And they're quite, stringent in that field.
Yeah,
so that's why
it won't go through the normal route anyways.
Yeah. So
sure.
yeah. So Anand, yeah. So Rishi, the point that I was adding is one commendable thing that Indian government did very, very quickly after COVID coming in is they regulated the pricing of sanitizer. So they mandated that a 50 ml bottle only has to cost 25 rupees. A 100 ml bottle only has to cost this much. So those companies who were making it anyways as a CSR did not have any issue. Because technically, if you're selling it at that price and the product is right, you would end up not making any profits out of it. It would just be a product neutral pack. So that is one thing very good that I think Indian government did, because regulating the pricing really helped cater to the right kind of demand, and they are pushing on giving a smaller size SKU. So even if I want to register and go ahead and say that I would start making a different variant of sanitizer, they are mandating that the highest proportion of production has to be in the smallest size of SKU, because given as a country we would need it to be spread faster. So that was one fantastic thing that our government did. Second thing they did was they stopped the export of sanitizer so that it stays in house. Any encouragement to making fake, etc., kind of gets curbed to some extent.
Excellent. I didn't know about this, Neha. Thanks for adding that. That's very, very good proactive move. Right. So, Chintan, if I'm asking, I don't know how things are in North America, in Canada and US, but what I hear a lot in this part of the world is that shift in, say, work from home, right? For most companies as a new normal. How do you see that changing the demand for consumer goods? Because offices themselves were a big user of a lot of goods in a big way, and as we move in-house, and we have seen all of us sitting at home for a month or that, our consumption patterns of certain things have changed. So how do you expect that to play out from say company perspective, a shift in demand going down, changing? What your views in that?
As I said, the market right now and the demand management is very volatile. Definitely the new norm, what we call it, working from home, has caused a tremendous challenges in reference to getting the goods or the items or office products, especially stationaries, the computers, the monitors, the chairs, and you name it, because people are not used to working from home traditionally. And when they have to sit 8 hours in a home on a chair or in front of computer or a screen or in a conference call, it has created a lot of issues in many various areas. In reference to us, definitely the demand, as I said, shifted from the traditional brick and mortar mass club channels to an online setup. So every day I was just reading an email. I just got an email from Costco buyer that they want to list few more items online because that's where they see the traffic and the consumer going to buy. So our focus right now, from not only from my own company, but I think the North American consumer goods companies are shifting their execution model, supply model, the demand model towards more online setup right now. So definitely the surge is there, the profit margin is going to be there, but the logistics and the execution and the amount of orders what we have to process is tremendous right now. Compared to shipping to a wholesaler which supports thousands of families, we have to ship it to 1,000 households. So that is totally a different new way of doing it, new norm for us, and we are adopting it, but it's a challenging environment right now.
Totally. Rutger, what's your views on that?
So the shift to online is absolutely obvious. Maybe specifically what we see here is that the prices for offices are going down, real estate, lease as well as buying. So there is an expectation in the market that we will need less office space because more people will be at home. It's kind of an average thing, but it's what it is. Where I feel a big difference is that if you want to undertake any business development initiatives, you are used to going somewhere, going out. And I guess new business will somehow develop slower because you cannot do it without the proverbial cup of coffee, right? Just calling someone cold, it will not immediately lead to business, which can be faster if you visit someone or someone visits you, again, in an office or in a neutral place. So from a consumer demand for products, absolutely more online. It's there to stay. I guess it's just an acceleration of what was going on anyway. I guess the brick and mortar stores will become, as it started already, right? More specialized, more focused on show and less on immediate item sale.
Can I add a couple of things here? I think it's important to look at the long term here, because how I see here, what we are predicting right now is double-digit negative growth happening in 2020. So 2020 is a watch for us. We are working towards 2021. Most of the industries in North America, and not sure about Anar, but we are facing a tremendous challenge in terms of demand and growing the sales right now. What I see is going to happen is that not now, but in Q3, Q4, we'll see a huge impact on the blue collar jobs, especially in the factories, the production capacities, the manufacturing sectors, which has produced to support the higher demand. Demand is not that high, actually. It has shifted. So personally, I see a bigger issue, not now. You're not seeing that, but in Q3, Q4, with lots of manufacturing sectors and blue collar jobs will be impacted and affected.
So I think
we'll talk more about the supply side of the things once we are done with this discussion. Yeah, Anar, you wanted to add something?
No, I was, and I can wait for that supply discussion, but I was just going to add to Chintan's point here. I think that's where essential and non-essential industries year-over-year growth, or how 2020 is going to end, is different. For Georgia Pacific, definitely we are calling that we will see certain % of growth more than what we planned for.
Okay, that's some positive news there. Dipak, your views?
I think work from home is definitely a new normal, and now because of the lockdown, almost all the industries are working from home. Uh, However, in the long term, I think definitely the brick and mortar stores will get some steam. But definitely online channel, as Chintan and Nouwen also told, the online channel is really picking up, and people are getting used to ordering things online while they are locked down in their homes. And definitely there is also going to be demand shift because of the habits, consumer behavior that is changing. So work from home, and I think the organizations will post even after this lockdown also, some of them would try to stick to work from home model, just from the point of view of cost reduction and all those things. But I think the online channel is definitely where everybody should be focusing right now.
Great. So I think again a consistency of the views there, and that brings me to the next logical question. As we see this inevitable, the online shift, right? But from the product perspective, as office spaces become less, so demand from that side will go down. Like Chintan mentioned, there will be instead of supplying 1,000 in one go, you'll be supplying 1,000 probably at a time, singularly. But you think that would also there would be a change in consumer behavior in a sense if I was buying say a single sanitizer when I went to a shop, but when I'm buying online or in the current scenario I might want to buy a pack of 4 or 5. Do you see now companies, you guys working on a new set of SKUs which is like a bigger bundle offers, bigger sizes? That's one. And secondly, do you see now more new products being launched, and how soon you think your companies would be launching new products? Would it be in this uncertain period to catch hold of the demand, or you think people would wait for things to stabilize? What are your thoughts? Let's start with middle of the world, Anand.
Okay, great.
I'm just going random, right?
Yeah, no problem. So the point is, in case of personal care, the new norm is the LUPs, which is the smaller packs. So one of our other panelists was also talking of smaller SKUs getting into the market. The main reason for the smaller packs is because people don't have the courage to go to a bigger supermarket and on the floor and go and shop and get exposed during the disruption period and get exposed to the virus. So that's why they want to go to a normal kirana store which is down the building, down the house, or probably just call up the local kirana store and get the stock up. And hence the reason being why the smaller SKUs is because a lot of people also think that sustainability is the need of the hour today, because of the various job cuts which are happening in the market, because of the various the capital getting blocked, hence people not willing to spend, and hence people want to save whatever capital they have at the moment, and hence spend what is required for. So rather than going for a 500 ml SKU, go and buy a 50 ml SKU for a normal personal care product. But at the same time, for sanitizer, as you were rightly saying, I need to stock it up for, if there are 5 members in the family, everyone needs to carry one small 50 ml. So, buy a pack of 6 so that everyone uses one of their own. So that's from product category to category, it matters and it differs. And that's the new norm today.
So you think you would be preparing for bigger lot sizes from FG perspective, bigger boxes, demand coming in from online? And what about the new products? How soon do you think that?
So in terms of the new categories, that any company or any CPG company getting into are these disinfectants, home care, mainly especially into these wipes, as Anar was also mentioning. It is their main business, but for companies like who are not into skincare and not into bigger skincare product portfolios, they will get into such sanitizing body washes, sanitizing products, all related to antibacterial as an ingredient. So that's mainly, you know, the new product category that people are looking at.
It looks like as a consumer, I'm going to be spoiled for choice in terms of personal hygiene, you know, so everybody getting into. All right, so Rutger, what's your views?
So I'm not at all a specialist in sanitizing products, except for the hand washing of myself.
No, I mean, it's just as a CPG as a whole. I know that.
In general, the more online will lead to more diversity. I'm absolutely sure of that, and that's what Anand also said. Yes. There's one caveat, which is shelf space in retail. Having a lot of variation there will not be appreciated, and depending on the size of the chain and their stores, they may ask for smaller sizes simply because they're overwhelmed at the moment. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Chintan, your take. I mean, do you see?
I have something to share on this one. So the trend and the way we are looking at it, it's different channels have a different need. So we need to understand the economic and where the channels are growing. So in North America, and I'm sure Anar will have the same thing, is Costco and Sam's, the clubhouses, is growing at 5 to 6%. And then the second side of the business is an online business. Those are the two channels that are primarily going in the right direction. Others are kind of steady or going to other side of the world. What has been happening to us? So there has been a spatial ask. So most of the product or most of the consumers or customers needs a personalization part of it. So we call it customization, personalization. They need a niche for their own particular consumer. So Costco wants a bigger pack, but in their own format. And in North America, everyone wants big things. So big houses, big cars, big roads, and big packages, which has sent a lot of consumers to the Costco's and Sam's to buy a bigger packs and customized packs. Whereas people who are in need of on a daily use, they are shifting towards the online business. But also, and I'm sure, Anar, you have few, and we deal with them. And I'll give you one more example. Target. Target is a smaller pack customer, so they need a niche on their customized SKU for 2 packs, 1 pack, or whatever you guys deal with it. And the last piece of this thing, and I don't want to go on because I can go on for hours and hours on this one. The last piece of the puzzle is how and where and what can you afford it. So as a consumer, yes, you'll be spoiled. I'm sure about it. But is this the right strategy? What is the strategy? How we take this to a next level? How can we increase their pocket size? How can we increase their the selling pattern? So there is a lot of talks and discussion going on in our company as well. I'm sure in many other companies associated with the North American market.
Yeah. Yep.
What about the new products? Before I let you go.
So we have started, to be honest with you, we just invented or produced the mask. So we are giving it free in France right now, but we can produce 15 to 20,000 masks a day in one of the factories. We also have produced ventilators, and we are also producing sanitizers and creams and a lot of health and beauty products coming soon online. So yes, the shift is happening towards health and beauty and personal care, and definitely for the sanitization part. We are not experts in the what do you call this, Purell and all these things, but we're definitely diverting ourselves to accommodate that side of the market.
So the product that you are sharing it for free now, you think that will get monetized at some point? It's a kind of premium model, as startups call it.
I am pretty positive that that's where it's going to end up eventually. But right now, with a good faith, we are distributing for free to a lot of European countries because it's a European company. So first of all, it's going there, and then eventually it will come to North America. I received 6,000 masks anyways as a freebie from them, from our factories, but I think it's going to be commercialized soon.
Interesting.
All right, Anna, a lot of competition coming up for you.
Yes. So, well, great points by Chintan. A lot of things what you said. I think I won't repeat that, but you're absolutely right. It is the segment of buyer as well as the channels, right? So let's say in US, we have something called dollar stores where we have product which are $1 to $5, and the segment who goes and buy there, they're different kind of segment, as well as segment who goes and buy at the club is different segment. Like they have money to buy bigger packs, and our product especially has no shelf life. So all the paper products, whether it's Dixie plates or cutlery or bath tissues or towels, they don't have shelf life. So people tend to buy bigger packs. So in end of February, I would say we started seeing a challenge. The challenge wasn't more of production. The challenge was shipping capacity. That how do we ship the need what market has right now? So we actually reacted to that in early March, and we came up with a reduced portfolio. So we reduced our number of SKUs in every single category. With our sales organization, of course, understanding what is more efficient to produce. And we put that short-term strategy together where we are actually now functioning with 50% of our portfolio, and our customers like club business or Walmart or Targets, different channels, we convince them one of their portfolio material will be available to them, but not all four or not all three. That really helped us supplying as much faster as we can, because that also helped us from supply chain perspective, where you don't have to ship everything to DC. It has increased our mill direct to the store kind of shipments. So one less leg, one less touch, benefit on cost, as well as shipping customers faster and having it available for consumers. So reduced portfolio is already implemented. I feel like our new normal might look very different. We might never go back to our regular portfolio size. Like for example, we would offer 40 different SKUs for one brand. To now, currently we are at 18 or 19. Our new normal could be 30, and it is a win-win situation for brick mortar as well as for company like us, supplier. Again, the shift in e-commerce is definitely everyone knows it's occurring. The interesting thing we saw here in statistics is people over 60 years old, they usually preferred going to stores versus those are the peoples who are shifting more towards e-commerce. So again, the portfolio could be very different when we think about e-commerce, because it has to be a smaller packs rather than bigger packs, and it could be more number of SKUs or more offerings since they don't have to have it on their shelves, right? So it we haven't done any new SKUs, Rishi. Your next question, like we haven't gotten into any new product line. Most of our products are in need right now, and we are working as fast as we can on the manufacturing side to produce them. The softness we have seen is only in on-the-go cups. So we have category called paper cups, which are for hot beverages. Naturally, people are not in office space, people are not going in the cars or taking those on the go cups with them. So some of the categories where we have seen decline is more like these categories, but otherwise overall we haven't really looked into anything new as a product line yet.
All right, very, very interesting points coming up. And some of, is everybody able to hear? Rutger, you have?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Neha, from your perspective, in India,
Yeah. So in India,
do you see any change in the SKU? Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely see a lot of change in SKU, Rishi. Like Anar mentioned, one thing that we are doing is we are being ruthless in prioritizing something that that can be manufactured quickly, because my supply is dry. I'm facing a spike in demand, and if I get engaged into something, because India is a land of customization. I mean, e-commerce asking a different SKU, we would have. So today, it's more of supply driving demand for me. We even have a prioritization done that if I can make say 100 gram soap faster than a 50 gram, I'll make only 100 gram and I'll not take a changeover in that line to save up on the 12 hours of productivity. So we are being very, very ruthless in terms of our product prioritization. We have simplified our portfolio to a certain extent, while my demand remains the same, but I am only producing 40% of the mix, so that I can cater to the sales. I'm even shifting. So for example, there is a 100 ml hit can versus a 400 ml hit can. If the customer affinity is the same, we would not make a smaller pack at all. So it is more like supply situation guarding, because India, we are not used to having our pipeline stopping anywhere, right? My factories today are running at a 30% output. My transportation is running at a 30% output. I don't have space, because we never thought that we'll have to hold this much of an inventory. And on the other side, I'm seeing a demand surge happening. So yes, we have simplified our portfolio to a large extent, so that it helps me drive the manufacturing efficiencies. That's what we are taking from the portfolio perspective. Now, coming to your second question on NPD, yes, we are launching a lot of new products on personal hygiene, because we definitely see an opportunity there. We have already launched around 6 products in this category from March till now, and we feel from India perspective we are late.
Excellent. Good to know. I'll keep my eye on the shelves. And Dipak, your thoughts? Any additions from your end?
Yeah, definitely. So if I talk about the new products, for us, what we are doing two things. One is quickly working with our R&D and with some local suppliers to get some affordable products, because we are into a premium sports bike industry, and right now, if you see, the consumer demand is being driven by the reduced purchasing power of the masses, because of the lot of layoffs, reduced wages, lost jobs, and all. So because of this, there is a consumer behavior change, and consumers are now looking mostly towards the affordable bike. So that is one. Another, we are also trying to extend our product line into the toddler range and more into the kids range, because these are the products which are being used by kids mostly in their houses. So considering the current scenario, we are trying to partner with some of the vendors in India, also because now the supplies are currently being smoothed by the China. So we are also looking for those partners to fulfill this demand.
Awesome, very, very interesting. And I wouldn't have thought of that naturally. And it's really interesting how businesses are forced to now think about new products and new strategies. Very interesting. And that actually logically gets us to the supply side of the things. And I would really like to pick what Neha mentioned, that supply is really driving the demand at the moment, really. And what I was also thinking when all of you were talking about the limited portfolios, limited production. So I think I would like to club a lot of questions on the supply side. One is that the social distancing applies to the factories as well, right? So in the retail discussion, we were talking about how in the assembly line, people would be standing at much farther distances. The production capacities would be hit. That's one. Secondly, the exports are hit, right? Export import is going to get hit. So especially for all of you in the other parts of the world who get supplied from Asia, especially the CPG consumer, China being a big electronics supplier, is localization going to be the next thing that something that Trump really wanted in many ways, getting jobs back to the country, and so would be everybody across. So both from Indian perspective, the exports or the Asia, which was doing a lot of exports to the West, and from the West perspective, the imports of the RM. So things like that, and the the question of really the higher SKU sizes being bought could be driven by the lack of supply. So if I don't buy a big now, something that caused the tissue fight in Australia, right, is the concern about the uncertainty in the future. So it's kind of a chicken and egg story driven there as well. So all your thoughts regarding that. Rutger, start with Europe first, and I'm really keen to know about your views on the consumer durable industry, and how How is that getting impacted in Europe, according to you?
All right. So in the first place, our objectives as, let's say, supply chain operations head, and what does not change is that we need to supply on time and in full. What does change? Speed after this crisis or during this crisis.
Interesting, yeah.
So there are two things happening now. When I go to a website right now and want to order something, most of them make some caveat. Our lead times are longer than you're used to from us. And part-time, that's a lie. People are optimizing. And sometimes they are longer, of course, particularly when it's intercontinental supply. But when it's local supply, it's bullshit. So people will be, companies are more careful about their e-commerce fulfillment, not about the fact that it's growing. But with the growth, you need to manage the growth as well. Your other point was about, let's say, intercontinental trade. I'm sure there will be a deglobalization effect of this crisis. Basically, higher costs will translate into shifts of sourcing or shifts of manufacturing or assembly. Now, some materials, just will have to come from Mongolia or China or Africa with regards to, let's say, precious materials, that kind of stuff. So that one will change. Only the place where things are brought together might change based on cost and logistics logic also. Whereas the airlines industry are going, if passenger and cargo prices are going up, then another shift in supply chain may take place. So this is our time, basically, right? We must advise our companies or our clients what to do. Now, it's very difficult to calculate accurately how the world is looking after my Q4 or in 2 years down the line, because investments are involved and they are more expensive when you deglobalize into a consumer market, USA, Europe, etc. So there will be a shift for sure, and that will be disturbing a little bit costs of companies, right? Lead times, and it will also heal the world a bit, I hope, from a climate perspective. We'll always have to mention that, even if it's not our core goal immediately, right? Your companies will have some pages on it in their annual reports, and you better contribute because it will be the future, right? We have a small crisis now. The next crisis is much bigger, even if it will take a few years longer. So I would suggest to adapt your supply chains to the world that's coming, partly deglobalizing and localizing more stuff. One client of mine is making products for not entirely consumer products, well, partly, but not. It's in laser industry. This guy, this entrepreneur, decided to buy products in China for a whole year of supply. His investors agreed. He just buys the whole lot that he needs, taking into account a bit of product development. And he says, okay, at least I have my stuff here, and I'll find somebody to assemble it. Right? If you have the money, that's a great way of acting. So again, sourcing strategies can be different by industry, by country, by culture, by whatever. But big changes have only just started.
Interesting, yes. And cash would be king. And thanks for bringing in the airlines perspective as well. So cargo movement stuff would also play a lot of big role. Anand, your views from Middle East.
So as we see that from the supply side, supply chains are connected from Europe, from Southeast Asia, and from India as well, because we know that MENA region is not really a resourceful region from the basic resources perspective. It's more of a import area apart from the raw material perspective, but from the packing material perspective, there is a lot of local sourcing. So it's a combination of what we call as globalization rather than localization and globalization. So that's what we do. I mean, what we do is how much might we have against our suppliers. So what is the contribution of business that we do with our supplier, and hence how much of allocation of the material, because if we have a vendor based out of Europe, the whole of Europe being under lockdown, or India being under lockdown, how much of stocks they have in their DCs and how much of that can be allocated to us. That's the kind of pressure that we build and we work with our partners, and that's what is going to help today. I mean, how much you can extract from through the entire supply chain that we have.
All right, I think that's best you can do over there. Dipak, quickly, I wanted to check with you, how much of localization would Firefox be thinking? When I bought that bike a long time back, I was told it's a lot of it is CKD import. But how is the situation now, and what's the thought process going forward?
Rishi, I think till date we are big importers from China and other South Asia, some other South Asian countries like Bangladesh, Indonesia, Cambodia. So if you see our portfolio, it is 70% of imports and only 25 to 30% of local manufacturing. So see, early the Firefox has never thought in this direction that of localization. Because if you see the Chinese suppliers, they are very much efficient in terms of pricing, in terms of delivering goods on time. So our thoughts were never good for localization. But right now, because we all see that how supplies have been disrupted in last 2-3 months, and so Firefox is also thinking of to partner with some local partners, local manufacturers, and converting at least 40 to 50% of our portfolio, from the local components and suppliers. We are also thinking to partner with some of the OEM manufacturers from Japan and China. So our management is working in a business cluster in Punjab, wherein we are inviting those OEM manufacturers to set up their facilities. I know this is a long-term project, but during this COVID and lockdown, this has got the steam, and we are really focusing on that for our long-term ensuring long-term supply.
Interesting, and that's where I feel that there are a lot of talk about loss of jobs because of this COVID, and I think at least it looks from this part of the world there could be a lot of shift in jobs rather than a loss. We could see a lot of manufacturing spurting up in the local players, especially in countries like India and the surrounding Asian countries. A lot of manufacturing coming here from China, so there could be new jobs here. Also, that would bring in the cost efficiency. So we're talking about cash being the king in this time, but we also would see probably cash being freed out from the savings in import that may happen for the company. So that is some thing that needs to be kept an eye on. Chintan, your perspective on how much of your production is imports dependent in terms of RM or FG, and how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, no, absolutely a great question, because that's the challenge is what we're facing right now. We import most of the stuff into North America. But from our own factories, which are located across the world. Basically, most of them are in Europe, and few of them are in India, in Daman. Big Cello is our company, right? Cello is our company. So it has impacted and has put a question mark on what's the moving forward plan. And we are working on a model right now, which Anand said local. So a more of a hybrid model. The formation of the bulk, when we say a product in a factory's packaging plant into a local source or close to the market, and then of course distribution in each area of the regions we are located in. So the model also needs to consider the footprint, also consider the cost efficiencies. You need to consider the shift of the skills, the machineries. It's a huge project on its own, but definitely not now. I would say in 3 to 5 years, you will see some shift of localization happening more and more than what we see it right now.
Okay, so gradually over a period of time, and this just next 3 to 5 years is where it will be most challenging for you to manage the whole stuff. Anar, what's the situation that you see?
So for paper industry, Rishi, overall, whether that's P&G or Kimberly-Clark, Georgia-Pacific, whoever is the market leader here in North America, most of them are, they have local production. So 90% of our production of 100% paper production is United States, but whatever other chemical product or some of the dispensers what we use, they come from China. And lately, because of the trade deal, what was going on here between US and China, we already saw the tension was building up, and some of the Chinese manufacturer actually moved their production units to Indonesia and some other countries. So that shift was already happening in last year Q4. So our suppliers are not only in China, even if they're Chinese, they are supplying us from Indonesia. But we are mostly 100% locally sourced right now.
Oh, are you saying that you knew this coming back in Q4?
Well, yes, US government somehow drove that, right? I mean,
yeah.
So yeah.
So
Already we were working with some of the options because the cost was going up, and we do ship. Georgia Pacific is into packaging materials as well, where all these boxes what we see for online shipping, cardboard boxes or stuff like that. We used to ship a lot of that to China, and we started seeing decline in our own business too. So it was just that trade deal which started driving a lot of strategy changes already in Q4 of last year.
that's very interesting to know, and I think that from that perspective as well, you are in a much better space. And that's one thing I think as paper is where the Asia imports a lot from North America, and that's where people here would be more impacted and we need to look for local options, unlike other categories. Neha, what's your take on?
Yeah, Rishi, thanks for the question. So I think as GCPL, most of our manufacturing is in-house and it is local. We don't have any of our manufacturing facilities outside India. We do have some in South region, but they supply for their local markets. But however,
any RM dependency?
Yes, we have very heavy RM dependency. We in fact have a lot of PM dependency also. Like to give an example, most of the hand wash pumps that you see in Indian market are imported from China. So yes, there is a strong need now to develop a BCP in place. It's not just about China, but we would need to have alternate sources. So in this kind of crisis happening, you need to have a different source. And I think it's going to change the strategy altogether on how you maintain your inventories, how you maintain your buffers, and what kind of suppliers. But all finally is going to boil down to cost. Because if India can match up the cost that I'm getting right now from outside, because currently the market is not ready for any kind of a price hike, specifically in CPG. We won't be in position any kind of price hikes. And if it is going to increase my cost beyond a limit, it's not going to be fruitful. Having said that, I think it's a great opportunity for us as India to become a next manufacturing hub, because we have all right kind of facilities available. We have good conducive relations with most of the countries. Only thing is how fast we act on it and how quickly, because it will also help us get economy back on shape. But from our perspective as GCPL, we feel yes, localization has to be done. It's a hard call. We'll have to put right BCPs in place. But if it is not cost conducive, I don't think we can be in position to implement it that soon. It would be a long thought process. It would take at least 3 years for us to get this implemented.
And how do you see exports being affected as well till normalization happens? So it's kind of a situation for even suppliers to get in unless they get a scale, and you may not be able to offer the scale unless you have the exports opened up as well, right? So how do you see the exports being hit and for how long?
Yeah, so export is going to get hit for long. I feel it's going to take some time. When it opens up, I see it as an opportunity, because they are looking for an alternate source of supply, and we can very well be that source, because geographically we are closer. We have all kind of right quality systems, etc. available. So I think export right now is constrained. It's kind of choked up. But whenever things open up, we can become the top 2 suppliers now once things start settling in.
All right. Great thoughts and some very good insights. Let me ask you the final question. That's about planning itself. How important you think is planning from the business perspective, and how you think it will be part of the digitization priority now in the companies in the current scenario? Chintan, your thoughts?
Well, planning has been, I would say, one of the most important now, before, past, and future. So I think it will never go away. If you plan well, the execution becomes easier. That's my take from day one. The planning, again, in this new world and the new norm and the new trends and new demands, it's going to be very critical. By using, I don't think so, we will have, I would say, the automation in place. We can use certain jargons for analytics for the AI, but you will need a skill set and a planner to do and to function on a continuous and daily basis. Of course, the technology is there to use, but that will be used more for the analysis, analytics, trends, data mining, and then input those models and those curves and things into the system for planners to do the work. So it's going to be very critical. And more so with the new norms and short lead times and the growing demand and changing demand, it is at the junction where we need to enhance those skill sets. If not, it's available in certain companies or organizations.
Sure. Rutger, a lot of planners are listening to all of us over here. What's your advice to them?
All right. In the first place, I concur with what Chintan was saying. And I would add to it that I have seen a lot of confusion lately because now other functions in companies suddenly start to get involved into what is the survival of their company or whatever, right? And do some planning in their minds or on some piece of paper and say this is the direction, and then the planner just has to execute, which is exactly not what he was hired for.
Yes.
And it will take a while for that to settle down and say, no, we really need the skill, and in fact hire up and be able to be more focused on pure planning, apart from S&OP and IBP and all the other things. Just plan your supply and your demand, or your demand and your supply. Yeah. Have the skill sets and the right people in place, and the use of AI or outside companies or both. So the confusion will go by, but it's very frustrating that now kind of sales guys start to see their bonuses in jeopardy and start to shout what we need to order.
Sure. Neha, what's the thought process? I know you lead the function over there, and you've been trying to automate that, digitize ever since last year. So what's the thought process now? Are you going to be in front end, a new local hero over there in Godrej?
So I think, yeah, Rishi, so you just picked up the right word. So our CEO just said that supply chain is as frontline as sales, and now we have gone rechristened as frontliners apart from sales guys. So that's a new recognition that planning has got. And yes, buying of information helps us faster, because currently it is so dynamic that I mean, we have thrown away the monthly planning schedule. It's actually daily. We have to change, iterate it. Unless I don't have automation, unless I don't have quick learning system, this is not going to help. It's going to get very frustrating for the planners to build. So I think buying in to those tools, or acknowledging the tools, or acknowledging the need of planning has become good. So as we mentioned, we had a town hall and we said that planning actually would be the concise keeper of the company. The reason why, if the factory is running, they don't know, are they running well, okay, not okay, if the sales is happening, it is planning which will say that yes, we are here, but probably we could be better or worse off. So we are the how to hold the concise, keep driving, keep nagging the system so that we kind of optimize to what limited resource. Because I'm not just facing one constraint, right? I'm facing constraint from all the ends. My supply are limited. and there's ambiguity around what is going to run, what might shut, what might get into red zone tomorrow. My demand is uncertain. I'm seeing unusual spikes. My pipeline of cash is unlimited. Is choked. Then my supply from the raw material, packing material is also uncertain. So what I thought of producing today at my line, because one RM did not arrive, I have to dynamically change the schedule. So it's all going real time. I think planning is going to have a different, very difficult phase for 5-6 months, but it's going to get the right due recognition in the industry that it deserves. It surely would become one of the key leading frontline functions going forward, because most of the organizations are now acknowledging that fact, and this would lead into getting all those development that we thought of automation, etc., becoming much more fast track.
Wow, some great adjectives for planning. I think we are going to be soon new soldiers without the uniform of this post-COVID world. Anar, your views. Are you getting the same recognition in Georgia Pacific? I mean, new you would already be, but what's the new?
Yeah. So Georgia Pacific here, I mean, supply chain has been very critical capability overall as a recognized capability. But I would say that planning norm is going to change after this. Even currently, how we look at our short-term trends versus how the shift is going to occur. So utilizing consumption data, customer inventory data, how do we do some kind of analytics just to understand the demand sensing piece? Those kind of areas we are now getting a lot of traction because most of the reduced portfolio strategy, all the work was done by demand planning team in providing this analytics on where is consumer more tilting towards. So the sooner you provide that information, that really helped strategy team to build appropriate strategy. So I think planning is only become more and more critical partner for the business. It's how you leverage different functionality. We invested into SAP IBP planning capability. Now, what's next, right? I mean, how do you think about demand sensing? If this kind of situation occurs, what are our thoughts on flow casting? Maybe how do we partner up with customer and go lower in inventory, both at the customer overall as well as our suppliers or Georgia Pacific side, to make it more cost-effective supply chain. So again, my end note will be, yes, this is another level of planning which will come out after this shift.
Well, thank you, Anar. Dipak, I'm just going left to right. Dipak.
Yeah, I think planning as a function has always been very critical for any supply chain or any organization, we can say. But the traditional planning that normally we do is basis the forecast. It's a forecast driven planning, and in situation like this, I think the supply chain of any organization should be agile enough to respond to the trend in the market, and it should be able to capture data from point of sale system that you have in your stores, and your algorithms or your demand forecasting model should be very adaptive to any changes in very quickly to the downstream value chain. So that is very important, and as a learning from this situation, I think ML and AI based tools are definitely going to be next level in planning to project to read the past data better and project for the future.
Sure, I think everybody would agree with that as well. Anand, your closing views on this?
Definitely. So yeah, so all the supply chain heads here are probably thinking alike. So it might be a repetition for me to say the same thing again what everyone has thought, because I also feel largely the same, that the longer planning cycles have to reduce to shorter cycles. So as Neha was saying that the monthly planning sheet. So there is nothing called as a monthly planning sheet anymore in Dabur. It's a daily planning sheet. because the scenario, during the lockdown period or during the disruption period, as it increased, so every day there was a new news. In fact, every hour there was a new news that this country is getting under lockdown, this country is going to get under lockdown, and so this supply chain is going to get disrupted, and hence this is going to happen. So, and every hour the planning model was getting changed. So in Dabur, where we manufacture all of our products in Dubai, 98% of our products are produced here locally. The head of during the SNOP meetings, in the normal scenario, the head of sales will speak to the head of supply chain. That's me, probably twice in a week in the first week, and then probably twice in the last week. But today there is a call of 1 hour every day. So that's the new input which keeps coming in every hour. Because there is a loss in secondary sales happening, there's a loss in change in demand happening almost every hour. The input needs to come from the front end to the back end. A CEO of the company is to call up the head of sales and ask how is business today. He's calling the head of supply chain and asking how is business. So that's the change, or that's a shift which has happened, and hence planning becomes so critical. And that's what everyone, all of our colleagues here were mentioning the same.
Sure, and I think Rutger summed it up saying it's our time from the company perspective. Right. So thanks a lot for all of you. I think it was really, really knowledgeable, interesting, insightful discussion, as always it's been for me talking to all of you. If you have time, we have a couple of questions and we can take that from the participants before we close. Sheetal, could you read out the questions and to whom it is asked? If there is a specific
yeah, so we have specific questions, few over here. So one being, do you see any challenge in forecasting with a shift to undigitalized POS with Kirana store back in supply chain? So that I would say more, I would give Indian speakers the chance to speak over here because it's more relevant for the Indian audience.
Yeah, so basically, if I can sum it up, it's probably relating to the secondary, tertiary POS channels, which are probably not digitized. We have a data collection problem for them, has always been from mom and pop stores, so, and a lot of demand by getting shifted to them. So what are the challenges and how do we see that? Neha, do you want to take that up?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Thanks for it. So I think we are also evolving with very innovative solutions coming up. So like example, ITC kind of ended up tying up with Domino's Pizza in India to deliver atta to them. Because so what's happening is, even to a Kirana kind of store, we are making up for the digital gap by supplying them directly, making a larger run. So rather than going through a distributor, like Anar also mentioned in one way, that we are cutting one leg of the supply chain so that I can get a sense of that demand faster. It is not an intentional thing to bridge the digital gap, but it is more of a forced measure because of lack of logistical options available. Because I need to fulfill those kirana daily, given most of my malls are closed, most of my supermarkets are closed. The only avenue for me to supply this demand are the kirana store. So we are seeing those revival in India. How am I bridging that digital gap? Is trying some innovative logistical solution and supplying him in that way. Might not be very accurate way of bridging it, but at least I'm 80% correct.
Brilliant, and again a very innovative solution. And you never know, we may have solved because of this a challenge that existed for decades. To collect the data from these mom and pop stores, and with this stroke of a month, you may have solved the biggest challenge that the FMCG companies faced. Thanks, Neha. Anybody would want to add, or should we go to the next question? All right, Sheetal, any other question?
Yeah, so I'll be taking up another question that we have. This is question to Anand, Anar, or Neha. For companies looking to shift sourcing to India, basically de-risk potentially, what guidance could the panelists give for Indian contract manufacture to be more competitive?
Right, Anand, maybe start with that.
So the guidance has to be very clear. It's all related to costs. So the faster and the cheaper option that the supply chain can give is the two factors today that can be successful. So not only during the COVID scenario, but also post-COVID scenario, as what Neha was also mentioning, that if there is an alternative to China, the only alternative to China maybe in the Asia region would be India. But if India is able to match the prices that China is giving today. So that's the new norm, if as long as the profits are protected, as long as the speed at which the supply contract manufacturer can give, how resourceful the contract manufacturer is in the city where he is located, is what the decision should be to go ahead with that contract manufacturer or not.
And Anand, I 100% agree with you. Just to add one more thing, I think what a company from North America would be looking at is also, as we all know, quality plus also the safety measures. So that would be highly required.
Absolutely, I agree that.
Sure. Sheetal, one last question and then we'll close.
Okay, so there's one more question over here. It's because of COVID scenario, do you feel that demand sensing enablers have limited embedment in tools? Are traditional statistical tools going to lose base from here on? At the same time, are there tools which are capturing leading indicators capturing leading indicators
like weather and
like weather and macroeconomic.
Okay, Chintan and Rutger, maybe you can take these two.
Yes, well, I'm not sure if software providers will start now to read to read in another scenario called pandemic, right? I don't see it happening, but definitely. Okay, let's put it a bit technical, right? We need to learn from this what happens to certain patterns in each industry, and from that, software providers could change their algorithms, could add algorithms, or otherwise you just have to scramble with your own industry and mess around with the parameters to produce a good planning in detail.
Right, Chintan, you may want to add something.
Yeah, it's a heavily loaded question, and we don't have an answer to it, to be honest. But maybe just set up a new planning group saying, hey, pandemic algorithm, and maybe adopt what you learned and put those cycles and trends in it, and maybe it will give you some kind of an indicators. Don't have a clue. Nothing has been worked or thought about it, but I'm sure we need to consider those moving forward as some kind of a historical trend, or take something learnings out of it and embed it into the system.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a lot of response and recovery work occur after we get over this, some of the prevention measure, as well as I think that companies will be leading some of the mock disruption strategies as well, and be more prepared, whether it is their shipping capacity, it is their demand sensing areas, or wherever they saw some kind of bottleneck, that prevention measure work will occur. But that's a very good question. It's just that right now, I think people are still fighting the current situation. So we might not have really thought about how do we want to respond to that in future.
Sure. Right then, I think we'll close with a big thanks to all the panelists over here and all the participants that came in. Good luck and be safe to wherever you are. We really hope that we come out of this very soon and be able to get to meet each other in person very soon in the new world. Right. Take care, everybody. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Stay safe.